This is episode 3 of More Than a Photograph, and I'm Malin. It's now January of 2013, and I started working on a really special new project. A couple months prior, I had met an artist named Gaston Ugalde, and I had purchased one of his images because I loved it so much. And he said to me, "Gray, you're a photographer. I'm a photographer. If you ever want to come to Bolivia and shoot, let me know." And I thought, oh my god, I would love to come to Bolivia. That sounds amazing. So I started to brainstorm ideas, and Gaston is really famous in South America, but what I love about his work are the images that he shot in the Salar de Uyuni, which is the largest salt flat in the world. It's roughly the size of the state of Connecticut, to put it in perspective. What was exciting for me about shooting in this environment is that since you're so high in elevation, the Kelvin temperature nears around 7,000 degrees, making everything brighter than it appears, especially color. So when I was brainstorming ideas ahead of arriving, I thought, what objects can I bring down there with me that will look almost superimposed or unnatural in the salt flats? So I thought, I'll bring some plastic yard flamingos. I can bring some cool rugs that I can maybe throw in the air that are colorful. I can bring balls, colorful balls, and we can bounce them on the ground and see how they look. Everything with color. We decided to bring really bright neon paper like you get from a craft store so that we could throw it in the air and then shoot it as it trickled down to the floor. We thought about bringing balloons and different colors of balloons. We were just shooting such whimsical ideas. There was no rhyme or reason. Gaston really pushed me. He kept telling me to try it again. And what was so cool about collaborating with Gaston is that no idea was too big. We had to try everything. And there was a time when we were shooting these black balloons and we had them all spotted out on the horizon. We collected them, put them in the back of the van, and then we had decided that we should bring out a llama. And Gaston was like, let's have 2 llamas. And I was like, okay, great. So these 2 llamas came out and they're standing there and I'm taking some photos of them and I'm like, this, it's cool, but, maybe we could do something different. And I started to think, wow, look at all these black balloons in the back of the car. What if we tied them on fishing string and just draped them on the back of the llama so it looked like the llama was wearing these balloons around it? Gaston's like, more balloons. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So we have all these white balloons. So we blow them all up, do the same thing, and then we drape them on the other llama. So right before the llamas are dressed with the balloons and standing perfectly, I suddenly get this horrible headache from the altitude sickness. I had to lay down on the salt and just close my eyes. And my best friend was with me on the trip and my sister, and they both go, Gray, get up right now and get this photograph. And I was like, ah. So I popped up, I grabbed my camera, and sure enough, these llamas just got right next to each other. They put their heads up, and I got down, looked through my lens, perfectly got this shot. It was so symmetrical, so perfect. The llamas looked flawless. And I'm clicking away, click, 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 click. And then I realized they're not moving. So I got out my cell phone, I turned, I got a selfie, the llama's behind me. It was just this incredible moment that felt like it was meant to be. It's just crazy how synonymous these llamas with balloons have become with my brand and with my name. Overall, that whole shoot was so magical. It really pushed me out of my comfort zone, and it made me want to shoot even stronger work, really out there, So I started brainstorming, and I thought, Gray, you have been to 6 continents already this year. What if you could get to the 7th continent? And I was like, okay, how do you get to Antarctica? And I realized that the only way to get there is to go by boat. So I called my sister and I was like, Lizzie, would you accompany me to Antarctica and help me produce a series? I have some ideas. And she was like, Gray, I've dreamt of going to Antarctica. This would be unreal. I'm in. And I was like, oh my God, we're going to do this. So as I was researching, I really got inspired by the global warming crisis. And I thought, what if I brought beach and summer objects into this winter tundra and shot the juxtaposition of the two? The journey to Antarctica is already pretty intense, but what you don't realize is that when you're down there, the weather conditions are very dangerous. There's no doubt that my sister and I had no idea what we had really signed up for. Our mission was to place these objects out in the environment, and there are safety regulations because icebergs are collapsing since they're melting, and huge shelves of ice are falling that can cause tsunamis. And it really sort of scared us, but we kept at it. And, I remember there was a moment where we had this vivid green inner tube, and it was also on a fishing line, and we had pushed it out against this beautiful ice shelf. And I was getting the shot, and all of a sudden, a piece of ice about the size of a house just fell off this shelf. And the driver gunned the Zodiac. My sister and I fell to the floor. The inner tube was like a kite in the air behind us as we zoomed off before the tsunami wave came towards us, and it was absolutely terrifying. We then attempted more shots on land. One that I really loved was we placed a simple rainbow beach umbrella out in the stunning landscape. Another was a swan inflatable. Let me tell you, those swan inflatables are large, and our cabin on the boat was tiny. So we had this 2 little beds and a giant swan in our room with us. And we also ended up shooting that inflatable swan out on the water, and it just floated right underneath this stunning arch, this ice arch. One of my favorite shots from the Antarctica series is actually called the stanchion. This is something you might see at a museum. The idea is that you can't touch what's behind it. And this whole landscape of Antarctica is slowly disappearing. And so many people will never have the chance to touch this or to see it. And there is sort of a real powerful thought in the idea of the stanchion. Overall, Antarctica was so moving, and I'm so grateful I had the chance to go there. It really has changed my entire perspective of our planet and how global warming is affecting all of us. So I remember waking up on New Year's Day in 2014, and I thought, Gray, you have shot so many collections that are successful. You've got Prada Marfa, the aerial beach, the aerial ski, the aerial parks, the Bolivia Far Far Away, the Italian La Dolce Vita, and now you've got Antarctica. I need to hire some people, and I really need to build a state-of-the-art website where people can shop for my work. And while I'm doing all this, I downloaded an app called Instagram. And little did I realize that it would propel me so far forward. No one could have predicted this coming. I hope that by hearing these stories, we are able to connect, and that by listening to this whole journey, you are able to understand the value of your art. It's so much more than a photograph.